Here we go. Here we go. Blessings abundantly, and welcome to the Abundance Universe podcast. I am so happy and grateful to be here today with my friend from a long time ago. I've known this gentleman for over 20 years, just about. Actually, yes, over 20 years. And we more recently got rekindled through art, technology, and abundance and dope people. But I'm really glad to talk, man. I want to introduce the world of Abundance Universe to a legend, a magnificent creator, a high-level individual, friend, peer, Manny Larcher. Manny is an investor, a founder. He has a background in marketing and tech, and he has an awesome smile. Manny, welcome to Abundance Universe. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. What an intro. I gotta take you on the road with me or something. Yeah.
Oh,
Great to be here. Great to see you at Art Basel. And yeah, it's about to be 20 years. We just aged ourselves a little bit here, but
we
no, that's
did,
good.
bro. We
Yeah.
did. We go back though. We go back to like 8th grade, bro.
No, I know, man. It's just different variations of ourselves. And I had dreads when we first met. Now you had dreads. I got the
Right.
short hair.
We switched it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. But I'm really grateful to be here with you today. I was so excited when we met. We hadn't really spoken in a number of years after high school because we both did our thing. We went into the world to do great things. And then we were both at an event. It was actually an art tech Web3 event hosted by
Yep.
Ariana the Techie, our good friend.
Yep.
And she brings really dope people together. But it was in Miami at Art Basel last year. And we were both at the event, didn't know that either one of us going to be there, but it was like, hold on, this guy looks familiar. And he was like, oh, you look familiar. And it was like, oh, it was one of those
Yeah.
moments. And we felt really good to be reunited. But I'm excited to talk to you, man, because you're doing a lot of things. You're a founder, you're an investor, background in marketing and technology. You've started multiple companies in those fields. You got Collaborate and Elevate. You're the founder of Stopwatch Creative Agency, as well as many other companies. And I just want to get into everything that you are and everything you do. But let's start with, how did you get to where you are from where you were? Where did you start? Let's go back to maybe when we first met. And then how did the series of events of life take you into having an interest in marketing and tech? Because that wasn't huge where we grew up, back in, so it wasn't a big deal to be in tech. Or marketing. Nobody's really talking about that, but now you're on the top of the world, man. You're doing a lot of things, very high level, with a lot of high level creatives. And I'm just interested. How did you go from there to here? Let's get into it.
Yeah, no, it's just like a constant learning lesson. I've always been, like a connector, right? Like a community oriented person. So, I went to college for business, but accounting and some of the the certain finance jobs really didn't appeal to me. I like being creative, so that's really why I like marketing the most. And even but it was hard though. Like I would say, like my first job ended up being a phone sales job. Where I'm inbound calls and we had to close deals. Now I ended up being really good at that job. And essentially what happened, the owner would take out the top salesman to a lunch. And, like it's what gift the gab or whatnot, so like I was just good at it. I would have, appointments for sales. I kind of eliminated the process. And after 3 months, and there was a room full of 40 people, and it was competitive. There were some people that we went to high school with, their parents were working there and I was beating them, right? Like in sales. So basically it was like the second time that this guy takes me out. Now this guy, he literally races Corvettes, a nice car. So when he takes me out, I kind of realized during this meeting that, no matter what I ever do, I will never financially catch up to where he is currently right now. There's not even a circumstance in this current setting that I'm like, yes, I'm really good at it. I enjoy coming here. I'm crushing it. But I realized that, that I'm at a limit. So I started to ask him, like, how did you get to where you're at? How did you get to And it was through the conversations that, he basically kind of told me he's a programmer and built a company and sold that company for, over 20 million. And now the company that we're currently working at is essentially kind of like his, 4-hour work week type thing, where, it's something he mastered, a skill set. So I didn't really believe him. He's like, look, I know who you like to talk to. I know what debt amount you like to talk to, what graphic. I know what time of the days that you're sharpest. You're right. He was like, everything, the leads is all coordinated by me. I manage it, and I do that through the office. So when he told me that, I didn't believe him, because he was like a sales guy. He was good. So I was like, when we go back to the office, you have to show me what you just said. And I'm the top sales guy. So it was like, look, if you show me what you just said, I'll get back to the office and I'll close, 3-4 deals today. Right.
Right.
So we go back to the office, and sure enough, he flips the computer around and shows me, this whole dashboard. And he had it was even crazier than I even thought, where it had how many, it showed that how much money I closed and made the company. He showed me how much money he's paid me, which is probably, that was the beginning of, okay, well, I can do tech. I was 22 at the time, but I could figure this stuff out. Like this guy was, he just was self-taught. If you see him, it was the last thing you would expect. And that was the beginning. The first company, website I actually went home and started building was Your Info Daily, yourinfodaily.com. And then that was literally all about just promoting music. I love music, so new music videos, new movies, things of that nature. And, I started that in 2014, simple site on Weebly, and then basically one day Kevin Hart retweeted it, right? So like Wedding Crasher was coming out. I was like the first blog to put it in there, and Kevin Hart retweeted it, and it started getting like 30-some thousand hits, right? And me, I was like going around events in Columbus. I started talking to a few different people, just letting them know, like, hey, I got this going on. I'm at that time, I'm still working full time at that job, over the phone. I'm also doing a lot of experiential marketing events, representing brands like Coca-Cola at like Ohio State games and things like that, and then I'm running the website, and I'm making no money off the website. I'm obviously trying to get advertising, no one's biting. But another thing that was, lucky in a way was that same time, it was the very first Columbus Startup Week. So this is like 2015. And basically I went to that event, and I'm, telling people what I'm doing. And I meet a guy there, and he actually owned an agency, a market, like a, full service marketing agency, Ryan McManus. I happily name plug him. And Ryan was like, hey, why don't you come, he loved what I was doing. He's like, why don't you come work with me? Just come work with me. Keep doing Your Info Daily. Love that. You can leave that over the phone job, which I wanted to get out, and I was kind of tired of working with brands or whatever, but I would keep doing that for a few more years. And then I joined Ryan at Content Via, which was called at the time. And that was the first time that I really, truly got exposed to, I would say, startups in my own backyard. I was on the internet, and I found, and I'm just someone that always just tries to teach myself, so the great thing is we live in a time, when you could go on YouTube and you could say, hey, how to build a Weebly site, anything really now, any problem that you have, you could troubleshoot it on the internet. And there's probably a video that will walk you through that problem,
This is the best time to be alive, man. I always tell people, like, we can do anything, but we got to learn how to focus. But go ahead. What were you saying?
Yes. So that's what it was. So when I met the startups, I knew that I didn't understand, anything. It was a different language. So I was like, I need to digest content. And the same thing with marketing at the time. And it was really in 2015, essentially, I'm going to say enter Gary Vee and enter Jason Calacanis, which in my opinion, Jason, he puts out a podcast called This Week in Startups. So I really literally kind of found both of them at that time, started digesting. And I would say more Jason, because the thing about Jason, he was one of the first investors in like Uber, Airbnb. So this guy, grew up, he didn't grow up rich, didn't go to an Ivy League school, and basically puts out content weekly, interviewing. So I just started digesting that content, and that really kind of ended up rewarding me at a later time in my life. But from there, it was just working with startups. I simultaneously met some professional athletes. I was learning a lot from them. Michael Redd and his business partner Danny Ortiz, which I still work with today. And from there, it was just a matter of learning. And the interesting thing that happened is in 2017, Ryan he came up. Columbus, Ohio, actually won a $50 million smart city grant. So in 2016, a lot of our entrepreneurs, they were really incentivized, as well as there was just a lot of momentum for Columbus to really solve transportation solutions that would affect the whole country, essentially. And coincidentally, Ryan ended up raising some money for a startup, an idea that he had called Share, which actually raised a 12 million Series A last year. And at that time, Lenny Burkett, who was a designer at the firm, and myself, we just kind of loved marketing, and we all met up with each other early at Fox in the Snow and had a great conversation in 2017. And so, that conversation, I always think about it because it's just a moment where, you could really just be transparent with whoever, you're working with, as far as kind of just having a conversation about things, like communicate about things as opposed to surprises, and we essentially decided to go our separate ways. And at that point, that's when we started Stopwatch Creative. And really, from there, it was just a process of working, utilizing our skill sets that we like, in marketing, consulting, building websites, apps, and other tech companies. I had the opportunity to work with the client, travel all over the world, multiple cities in America, and it culminated with him sending me to Belgrade, Serbia, and I was able to kind of close 10 European chapters. Excuse me, and that guy would sell his company in 2019. And also another thing that we started to do, as we excuse me, we started to get more kind of notoriety, in local Columbus, is just start doing events called Collaborate and Elevate. And these are free events. I had a lot of people reaching out to me to get connected to this person or that person, or how do they raise money. So it was a good event just to meet, just for people to hear from other people who are doing it for free. So we ended up doing, probably over 20 events around Columbus. We flew people out from Memphis as well, which a couple years later, a startup that we featured there would raise 3 million at the event that we did. And there, and that was Collaborate and Elevate. And I think, from there, it was, just really interesting as far as, we had multiple offices leading up to the pandemic. We had probably 7 or 8 employees and, 5 interns. And then COVID happened. And, I would say that's when things kind of got pretty interesting. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
let's stop right there real quick. We'll take it from there. But I want to know, when you did your first Collaborate and Elevate, I'm always fascinated by people that go out of their way to create opportunities to bring others together or to make opportunities for others to succeed. And throwing a big event or a meetup, it's no small task when it comes to the organization and the planning and the execution, and then doing it consistently. How did you do that first event? How was it funded? How did you pull it together? What was it like? And then how do you think about the continuation of
Yeah.
that? Because you got a strong brand with Collaborate and Elevate, but I'm curious, just for anybody that's trying to start something, talk about how you got it started in that first event, how you made it happen, and then how you continuously elevate.
No, I appreciate it. So it's an interesting story. So, and it actually comes from mentorship from two other gentlemen that own a nonprofit called The Wave Columbus. So Michael Redd, who some of you may know who he is, he played in the NBA. He took Ohio State to a Final Four. He was ended up being the franchise player of Milwaukee Bucks. Him and his business partner Danny Ortiz, they were mentoring about 20 of us. 20. I want to say majority Black men. It wasn't only Black men, but it was a majority Black men. And Mike at the same time opened up a co-working office called The Wave. So, and during that time we had it was free for everybody at the end of the day. So The Wave was free. But I will say that a lot of people, they think that you want something in return. So there were a lot of people that didn't come because they thought that, we wanted something in return, right? So a lot of it, was us trying to create an environment where people felt comfortable to come. There was free coffee and everything like that. And then, so I would say Collaborate and Elevate, that is probably the event that culminated out of that energy, where I was just overwhelmed with all types of requests that I couldn't fill. So I wanted to connect the community to my two bigger brothers, Michael Redd and Danny. That's the best way to put it. So in theory, so the first event, I actually featured Mike and Danny at the event. And I mean, there were probably 200 people in the room, being honest. So, and it was at the Wave, the co-working office. And that's really how it was. We kind of, every event we would feature different people in the community. And we just kind of kept it going, and all types of things. We just highlighted all types of business owners, in my opinion, that were just underappreciated. We tried not to highlight the same faces that was getting the attention. And it was all about giving back. I think from my perspective, because of what Mike and Danny were doing, providing me a free space, which I did manage, and they gave me a stipend for, providing free coffee, providing a free office, right, for me to meet at. It was like paying it forward at the end of the day.
Right. It just it seems like it happened kind of naturally. It felt like the right thing to do.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So now you got Collaborate and Elevate as a community. It's a big deal. You're bringing lots of people together. I'm sure it's creating more opportunities for the agency and your other businesses to grow and glow up as well.
Yeah.
So where are you guys at now? And then what's next when it comes to everything you're doing with the agency, with the events, marketing, tech? What are you guys doing for founders? What's the most exciting things you have going on, and what's coming up?
Yeah, no, definitely. And for sure. So I guess a backstory with Collaborate and Elevate, essentially the pandemic. So I think the pandemic, and you hit the nail on the head. We didn't care at all remotely about charging for the events or anything, period, because we were getting clients for our agency. So it was really just purely about building community. And I never am anyone that wants to be a gatekeeper. I actually hate the word gatekeeper. So it was like, okay, well, let's open up the floodgates, right? So, but when the pandemic happened, the gates got closed, right? So like I said, I had 2 offices, employees, interns, and essentially we just started getting lean with everything. And the world works in mysterious ways where one lease we were able to get out easily. The other lease was not the case at all, but we were lucky and it was over in May of 2020. It expired. So after the 2 months, we kind of got liquid. But I would say in March of 2020, essentially the community was kind of like, look, keep this thing going. And, with our tech background, we rolled out a membership. And in the same way of inclusivity, we started at $5 a month. Long story short, after the first year, we would pass. Well, it took a while to, because we really treated it like a startup. That business, like Collaborate and Elevate. Where Stopwatch, the pandemic was incredible for us financially. Where anyone that did not have a website, they were hitting us up. Anyone that didn't have any social media presence, marketing. So we were very busy. So so with the agency, it probably took 4 months to get to 10 customers. And I remember when people were signing up early, it was like, why are you even signing up to this? Like like doesn't make sense, and really feeling like I have nothing to to give this individual other than like my time, right? And but that was an epiphany moment in itself, right? Because it's the pandemic. We cannot meet each other. Right. So as the months go on, I still really not worried about it. Like I would say, it took 4 months to get to 10. Then I did have a very good call with a brother that a black, brother that works in venture capital. And he gave me some great advice. Like the website, I told him what I wanted to do, but the website didn't look that way. And essentially he just gave me some good advice and I listened to him. I'm not kidding you. Essentially the amount of time, it took 4 months to get to 10, the next 4 months, we would basically get to 60. We got 50 members in the next 4 months. And that was like the end of 2020. And essentially going into 2021, right around something interesting happened around March of 2021, where at a meeting with someone that wanted to hire me in the agency for marketing. At that time, I had a lease car and a lease Honda, and I owned like a '98 Honda. So I would drive like my old Honda around town, and then I would use the other car, for longer trips or whatnot. And on the way to the meeting, someone ran a stop sign. I was going downhill 35 on Neal Avenue. No way I could have stopped. I hit them going 15 miles per hour. Their car flipped, right? Like my car completely totaled. They're obviously at fault. And, I legit had a concussion. Immediately, I emailed the person, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make the meeting, because I got in a car accident. And essentially their response and their energy, it was like they didn't believe me for one. And in that moment, I realized like, dang, I could have literally died essentially going to a prospective meeting, and that woke me up on a different level, and I like literally, like I'm not even kidding you. I would end up moving out of Columbus a month, 45 days later, at the end of the day. I literally moved, I had a talk with my family, and my business partner, Lenny, and I relocated to Miami, Florida. And this is in 2021. And this is when, Miami is just just tech is going crazy in Miami. And that was probably the smartest thing I think I did that year. Moving there. And, the other thing we did was we rolled out 7 tiers of membership and really started to take Collaborate and Elevate serious, because I realized, like, look, at the end of the day, these people, these customers, they're paying for our, now they're paying for Manny time. And now Collaborate and Elevate is also a media platform. We have over 10,000 followers now, right? Across all platforms at that time. Now we have more. And so we rolled out 7 tiers of membership: 5, 35, 90, 180, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and really began to kind of adjust it to what it is today. And, we probably passed 100 members, a couple months after me being in Miami, and to just literally grow every single month. I'm not like every single month, we've grown. And the unique thing about Miami is that it's such a epicenter, I would say, for the world. We were able to go to Miami Tech Happy Hour, which is ran by Chris Adamo, and meet so many people. A weekly happy hour in Miami, and there was just so many events going on. Crypto was at its climax. I remember waking up seeing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything at record highs. Parties on yachts. So 2021 was. I mean, they're probably gonna make movies about Miami in 2021 because it was different. And for me, you brought up the word key in itself, focus. Before I moved to Miami, I did tell Michael, Red, and Danny, and I told everyone that I respected their decision from a business standpoint of view. I let them know that I was moving, but it wasn't anything that I publicized. Like a lot of people publicize, like, hey, it didn't work out here, and that's not how I felt about Columbus. I think it definitely worked out. It's a foundation, and it wasn't anything I wanted. To me, I saw value in both markets and leveraging both markets. That was my view. So I never publicized that I was moving. It was just a matter of people started seeing pictures more and more and more. My mom and dad live in Columbus, so I still frequently visited them. And my business partner has a home, in the short north. So it was a situation where, we were still very much here. And, yeah, I think just from Miami, it was a beautiful process. When you say focus, I think that's all it is. There are different tiers of Miami. Miami's an expensive city as it is. I'm not kidding you. My rent, I think 6x, when I moved there. So it was a strategic decision, that I was making from living in the Midwest. But I really believe that I was able to connect with so many incredible people: Evan Leapart, Kitty Credit, Carlos Vasquez, Miami EdTech, so many people, Kumara, Thompson, just so many people, and shout out to the mayor, Francis Suarez, which literally last week he retweeted a Collaborate and Elevate post, highlighting a Collaborate and Elevate member, Evan Leapart, Kitty Credit. He raised 1.4 million. And the Miami mayor, I posted this on Instagram. He sent me a DM to tag him on Twitter, and he loves it. And that just shows how connected that community is. So there's so much, you talk about community, and I do have, hypothesis for why, it has a lot, in my opinion, to do with, just if you simplify, you just look at the weather, you look at the sun, vitamin D, what that does to you, right? And then in the Midwest, I don't know if anybody listening lives in the Midwest. Everyone, we get 4 months of sun, probably, right? So there's a lot of seasonal depression, and so to me, I think the only way out of that is actually authentic community. At the end of the day, if you're staying isolated in your house, which the pandemic made us even more isolated, that's the issue, and so I essentially, things were going well. Obviously, crypto started to crash, and one of my friends that I was working with, he had a startup. He sent me a message about pretty much the only. I mean, it was I was working as a scout with other investors, helping some of my friends raise capital. I had no interest in joining a venture capital firm. Wasn't thinking about it, but there was one firm in Ohio, based in a city that I always wanted to live, which was Cleveland, that I was like, it would be very interesting to be a part of that team. I always thought they were great. And year 20, they were one of the first investors in the biggest exit in the history of Ohio, Cover My Meds. They invested in numerous Black founders I looked up to from Ohio: Don Dixon, Rodney Williams. Don Dixon, by the way, is Jeremy Ball's sister. And just several people that we know that they invested in. So they do a lot of work with Black founders. And essentially, one of my friends said, "Hey, Manny, this company is looking for someone to tell them who to invest in. They're looking for a deal flow associate." And we started talking, and I kid you not, it was like over 20 hours of conversation, that was had with the entire team over a 4-month period. And then I decided to join Jumpstart Ventures, as a deal flow associate in July of last year. And ultimately relocated, got a loft here in Cleveland in August, and then officially got out of Miami in January of 2023 this year. And I still go back and forth. I was there for April Tech Month and Emerge Americas. But now officially based in Cleveland. And as far as what's next, I think there are a lot of opportunities, of course, but I think in terms of Stopwatch Creative, we service kind of a niche audience. We typically we work with pretty high growth companies, and Collaborate and Elevate, same thing, right? But I think so yeah, it's we have certain things automated, from a software and tech perspective that doesn't take a lot of my time. I don't really like this book, The 4-Hour Work Week, but I think in my case, if you have certain things in place, I think 3 books are way more important than 4-Hour Work Week. I think Traction, 0 to 1, and maybe throw in the Consulting Bible. I think those 3 things are more important. But I think if you have a good process, then you could implement tech, and then you could start taking things back. Now we live at a time where, I have, artificial intelligence at my fingertips. That's scary hours, so, I mean, I think I'm a 10X marketer now. I'm a 10X data scientist now. I think so for us, it's just always learning. I think, that's really the basis. And in terms of the business, it's about helping people, and then how we could help people more at the end of the day. So we have a 80-something% retention rate. So for us, it's more about, understanding our target and, focusing on, on growing that, but I think, we just try to really, again, have a good foundation of how we're helping people. We do in-person events now called Ohio Tech Happy Hour. So, the Collaborate and Elevate, that event energy, in my opinion, is now Ohio Tech Happy Hour around the state. We do it in Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati monthly. We start doing it in September. Over 100 people show up pretty much at every event. Need some help in Cincinnati if you're watching out there in Cincinnati, but I think Cincinnati will come up.
513, pull up.
Yeah, 513.
Tech Happy Hour, pull up.
The bar is open too, by the way. I don't promote that, but just so y'all know,
for those that partake, it's there for you. Collaborate, elevate, connect.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, able to get investors like Rebel Ventures to be a sponsor in Columbus, investors like Jumpstart Ventures to support the event around the state. Big agencies like Book and Street, Big Kitty Labs, Inspirity, just the Greater Cleveland Foundation. We've had a lot of sponsors just supporting the mission of really building community. It's a free event. We really try to get community builders in the room, founders, other investors, just try to simplify the business and the deal room. And it's been really, really interesting, and shout out to Chris Adamo in Miami. I actually called him up first, and asked him like, hey, are you fine with me doing this? Because I'm going to literally kind of take your blueprint, but it's because I love what you're doing there. And then I want to give a shout out to Chuck with Friend App. He runs a Brickle Tech Tuesdays, and it was a meetup in Brickle every Tuesday. So if you guys live in Miami, and Chuck, one of the things that I was blown away is he rolled out a private directory, which was free. So everybody, when you go to an event, it's hard to meet everyone, we filled out a form and we were able to connect with each other on LinkedIn, have a conversation. So I kind of integrated that as well into Ohio Tech Happy Hour. And that's kind of what it is right now. So I wear a few different hats. In itself, I think with Collaborate and Elevate, it's more about helping people, putting processes that are in place. In my opinion, the secret sauce of Collaborating is, hey, I'm a lawyer, I need a customer, and us being able to connect. And hey, I'm a startup, I need a lawyer. And they reach out to us with those specific asks. We're able to kind of do that matchmaking. That's just an example, but I think just us being able to really connect people is the secret sauce. So just learning on how to do that efficiently. But I could tell you, there's a lot of different things that I could have done that would have derailed everything. From if I developed my own app, it would have been over. You know what I mean? There are a lot of different things where I see founders, I see people, they want to build an app first before, but at the end of the day, it costs a lot to, build the app. And once you, launch it, they're up for, cost fees, up for, fees to keep it up. So I think it's more about, knowing what your minimal viable product is and, being able to help your customers. I think that's how, we go about building, businesses.
I want to talk about that for a second. So I myself may have fallen into that trap of thinking I need to build an app because I have so many ideas. I want to help a lot of people and also want to scale the help because I'm always doing things for people IRL, but there's a limit to that. There's a limit to the energy and the how far we can go with that. The internet makes it easier, but I've always thought about packaging up all the things that I do and putting it into apps. But I always come to the facts that you've mentioned is the startup cost, the resources, making sure the team is vetted. And then once you do have this big complex thing built, what do you do next? Right? There's a whole nother set of expenses and marketing and brand building that has to come along with that. And it's doable. People do it all the time, but we got to look at, it's not for everybody, right? We got to look at what works for us in our particular situation. And also maybe there's an area where we could have more impact and use an app that already exists and still be able to get whatever benefits and value we wanted to create. But I want to talk to you about AI and no code. I've heard about Bubble.io. I've heard about a couple other apps that folks are using to make apps without code, and they're getting MVPs up quickly, right? So what do you think about that when it comes to the new technology we have? Do you think we're going to see more apps being developed? And what do you think the ecosystem of software development and SaaS products and founders wanting to start there? What is that going to look like as we move forward in this new age of AI?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I think so. The first one with the no code tools, I think that it's better for, just to simplify it and going back to helping people, what's your target customer? What do they want? And what are they willing to pay? Right. And that's what a, minimum viable product is. So, I think going about utilizing tools like this that are, less than, $50 a month, you could build something and you could validate that. Let's be honest, there's probably no technology now that anyone could show someone that's going to wow them, right? At the end of the day, like, you're not going to create a technology, right? And I'm not saying if you're trying to do that, great, kudos, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We believe in you. Go for it. You can do it. However, just look at what we got going on, just look at it, but still go for it. We want to keep everybody encouraged, but I see what you mean. Like look where we're at right now. I can speak to my phone and it'll give me a whole computer program. I'm on Google Bard. It's going crazy. So like, I feel you. I don't like to say be realistic because no, I don't ever want to limit anybody's imagination, but also this is an interesting point. Like, we got to look at what else do people need that can be exciting, that's not going to just repeat what's already done or be a small iteration to something that is just going to cost more than it actually provides value.
And the extreme of this is where all the crypto people and the blockchain people right now, right? So that was the new technology, and where's FTX, right? Like, look what happened there. So there's a I think it's more about if you focus on how can this help someone, and then you utilize technology to help and to leverage it and to scale it essentially. That's how I would look at technology. Of course of course, custom code is still needed, right? But there's just a lot of platforms you could use. So for example, I don't know if it's acceptable, for example, for someone to say, I need a CTO, right? I don't know if that's acceptable anymore, in my opinion. Because you could learn how to build something, um, and I can make the argument that if you don't have the grit to learn it, you're not meant to be a founder. I don't think. I mean, there's a reason 9 out of 10 fail. So I think if you really want to run a company, you have to be willing, um, you know, to either it really well, but if you don't know it, you have to be at least be willing to constantly learn. Because I think that's where stubbornness and I mean, if you think about it though, if you have an idea and you go and you build it and you take a second mortgage out on your house or whatever, and you create debt, for this thing that you have, and then you build it and then no one wants it, right? And you didn't get feedback. Who did you do it for? Right? Like you did it for yourself, really.
Big fact. No, bro. Let's take a minute. Hold on. How many people are out here trying to build something for their own fulfillment with the guise of helping other people when they haven't done the market research to see if people even want or need this thing? Maybe they just need it. That's an interesting point. I want everybody to listen. Again, we're keeping you encouraged and inspired on your journey, but also look at what's happening in the world and assess the product from perspectives other than your own. I love this. Please continue.
And I'll take it from my story. I've learned so much through just talking to our customers, and we're now in a position in a world where that's all we do. Like there's no sales anymore. And the way our business is almost set up as well, there are barriers. There are paywalls per se. So we're pre-qualifying people, through making them make a financial decision, right? That allows us to focus on the important things at the end of the day. So yeah, I think I don't know of any other way to build a business. I think this is the most important thing that a lot of people miss, because you will learn what someone's willing to pay for something, and you'll also learn probably what exists already out in the market. If you look at AI, right? You brought up Bard, you brought up OpenAI, right? I'll use a company that I use called Zapier, right? Which they do a lot of things. These type of companies are competing with that company now, and they could do different things, right? So I just gave you Zapier's worth $1 billion. So think about every other startup that isn't at the end of the day. So if you're trying to do something that maybe this technology is going to effortlessly blend into Gmail or Outlook, then you as a startup need to think about that differently and simplify it to, okay, well, who's your target, customer, and what are they willing to pay for? What's the big problem that you're solving at the end of the day that they're willing to pay for? I think that's the best way to do it.
Right. I love that. So for somebody that is working to create a product, it could be a SaaS app, it could be a community, it could be an aggregator. What do you think they need to do once they've assessed the need? How should they be thinking about connection? How should they be thinking about connection and community and social media in order to bring the resources that they need to get the most success out of their idea? What do you recommend? And what have you seen work for people? Community, collaboration, social media. How should we be thinking about these things to essentially bring our MVP to the success that we envision so that it can solve problems for people?
Yeah. For community, Big Sean has a line saying, I put the city on my back. So that way, if I fall, I'm crowd surfing the map. Right. So I think wherever you're at, wherever you live in, you really do need to get outside and explore and meet people, right? You and I were both in Miami. If you even think how crazy that was, now shout out to Ariana, the techie, because that's right, because that mutual. But Miami, Art Basel, on the beach, anyone, in the middle of the day, anyone who's been there, how much traffic and how crazy. So the fact that we were both in that building at the same time is kind of nuts if you think about it. When there's so many other events going on. So I think that's the most important thing, because no matter what you're doing online, it's different when you can meet somebody in the eyes and see them. Any sports. What are some great virtual sports leagues that you watch? You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to sports in person in real life. You know what I mean? So I think in business, the in real life has to be customer service. Or, for me in marketing, it's, I think it is, a little bit of events. But it's a look and a feel of maybe how you interact or how you felt about the events. Or if it's just at the bare minimum, how you felt after interacting with me at the end of the day, right? So just, going to events is crucial. You brought up 3C, so I just wanted to do that with community, because I think a lot of people, I disagree now. Like, for example, let's say, my strategy when I moved to Miami wasn't, and going back to me publicizing that that I didn't leave, right? I didn't go to Miami and say, oh, Columbus, Ohio sucks. I hated it there. No one helped me. This is why I moved. That's not what I was saying. I went there talking about Smart Columbus and how it won a grant, talking about how Columbus is labeled a test city USA. And you got, Nationwide, Wendy's, and all these, White Castle, Chipotle, they all test products. I talked about how we have nonprofit venture capital firms that are incentivized to invest in local Ohio founders, right? I compared it to Chicago at the end of the day. We think of the Midwest, we put Chicago. What's the cost of living in Chicago? Do you know how cold winter is in Chicago? Have you ever been right? So I actually, again, it was that. And I think that created, opportunities at the end of the day. And it also, it's an energy thing as well. So I think a lot of people, whatever city you live in, there's something going on in your city, especially in tech at the end of the day. St. Louis tech, there's a 22-year-old brother that raised $23 million in St. Louis.
Facts.
Right?
And if it's not anything going on, you can always start something and people will come. So if you live in somewhere where it's not a lot popping, tech wise, start an event, host a meetup, or once a month or once a quarter, and people will pull up. But keep the space activated. But yes,
I agree. Albuquerque, what's up?
Boise, Idaho,
Literally.
Plano, Texas. Like, turn it
Yeah.
up. Let's go. Wyoming. Like, get it going. Start something.
I agree. Des Moines. We haven't heard anything coming out of Des Moines. What's up? And then I think too, don't compare yourself to Silicon Valley at the end of the day. If anything, study Silicon Valley. Study Peter Thiel. Study Jason Calacanis. Study these people. Think about it. It's under 45 years old. All this stuff, right? It's a relatively new space. And again, of course, it was started. If you just think about the nature of it, it was, it was all started relatively new. So of course it was, people in that vicinity. When you talk about Apple and all these companies that kind of came out of there. So yeah, if you have a manufacturing state, focus on manufacturing. If you have, if you're in Pittsburgh, in a Rust Belt like Cleveland, there are a lot of unique problems that are coming, and they're all opportunities, in a lot of these places. So I think it's kind of understand the problems that your community has, and solve for that. I think that is what makes the best founder, and another thing that I realized when I was in Miami and, I was in New York last week, um, these cities are not a fair representation of America, right? Like these are the top echelon cities, right? Um, so it's not normal, right? Like a normal city is Columbus, Ohio. That is a fair representation of America. If you drive around America, you're gonna see more Columbus, Ohio type than Miami. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that I realized as well. When I was there, and just it's more about learning and learning how to apply that to the business and really slow down and focus. On who you're talking to, right? And also just making sure that you could help them because there's a lot of opportunities.
Big facts. Big facts. Okay, so what's next for you, Manny? What do you see looking into the future, looking into your crystal ball? Where do you see all of your businesses and ventures going? And more importantly, where do you see your why playing into how you move forward? And what is your why? What is your reason for being? What do you wake up in the morning and say, this is why I do it for? And how are
Yeah,
you going to
no, I
carry
mean,
that into the future?
no, I appreciate you. Well, I gotta give a shout out to the Most High. My name is Emmanuel. God is with us. So I really just try to be a servant, leader, and a follower. Uh, and I think for me, it's important to kind of pay it forward and really, I want to help Black founders. I was at Black Women Talk Tech last week. Incredible organization. They had a big event in New York. Um, and then there's a brother sister organization, Black Men Talk Tech. So I do a lot of mentorship, to Black founders of all ages in Ohio. Again, I'm in venture capital now. So any fund that if you really are, there's a lot of press releases that people say they invest in Black founders. If you really are investing in Black founders, I would love to introduce you to a few of them that are doing some amazing, amazing things in our portfolio. And, I think it's just more about building community and, taking care of, family, partners, and supporters. I think that's the main thing, and just taking care of your health first and foremost. I think you have to have a full cup, to be able to pour into somebody else's.
What do you do to fill your cup up? What do you do to feel better and create more abundance in your life?
Yeah, one thing that I did, and I recently I bought it again, but I make sure I close these rings every day. Just working out on the Apple Watch, even if I went for a nice little 30-minute bike ride this morning, went to the sauna. I'll probably go back to the sauna again because after New York, I don't know I walked in the rain, which I remember my mom told me not to do that growing up. And I think that's what I've had, like a little head sickness. But I will say working out 4 to 5 times a week, going in the sauna, that does definitely it's just a health routine, like so I think just that, just taking time, just taking time to for myself, and I'll say this too, it's obviously hard. I think in the beginning when you're starting to do a business, you say yes to everything, as you should. I always Another thing people need to think about is a lot of people, and let's say you're the person that don't say yes to anything, or you don't say yes to everything, or you only say yes to money, right? In my opinion, and the reason I got to where I got is because it's the opposite. I would reach out to people that I wanted to work with, and I would volunteer for free for them, right? Like, so even, and just you name it, right? It could be, and Charles Barkley. Like I would reach out to Charles Barkley and I would intern for free for Charles. Why wouldn't you do something like that? You know what I mean? So like it would be people um like that. And that helped a lot in my business, right? Because they know that I'm just starting off, but and they know and I know that I'm not ready for that. But from an internship standpoint, that so as time goes on, that's kind of where the business is now, where I'm kidding you not, like we're talking to countries now, and how we could help them look at Ohio, differently and as an opportunity. And I don't know why they're not, because Intel is, right. Like Intel selected Ohio over every other. So there's also a Japanese company that is putting like $1 billion into Sydney, Ohio. I didn't even know there was a Sydney, Ohio. Right. So like it just there's all types of development happening around the state. Um, but I look at that as, yeah, my why I think is just, you know, focus in on that, and yeah, just traveling. I'll be God willing, I'll be in Columbus on Wednesday at a nice event. I'll be in Youngstown on Thursday. I think I'm gonna go to Pittsburgh on Friday. So everywhere I just named is within a 2 mile or 2 hour drive, from Cleveland. Um, so yeah, just really trying to kind of make the most of the Midwest and just learn more. Going back to how I go about solving problems. That's how I solve problems. I want to learn from the community and learn about the problems. Um, so yeah, and just really trying to simplify business. Growth. I'd say. Um, not every company is a venture backable startup, right? So I think it's just all about people understanding the opportunities and the different paths to get capital if you need to get a capital, but I'm someone that didn't raise any capital. I'm just someone that managed their finances and got customers, from our own business. So I always try to show at least be able to meet people where they're at, and kind of pay it forward in that lens. At the same time, you only got 24 hours in a day. So you got to make sure that your cup, stays full.
Yeah, priority manager for sure. What would you say are some of the top things that founders or creators, creative entrepreneurs need to focus on if they are seeking to get some venture backing or raise funds to take their idea to the next level? What are the key things, just
Yeah.
however many, that they need to keep in mind or focus on? And then any resources for founders, for people looking to raise funds and scale their startup.
Yeah. So just keep it simple. I'll say strategy is a commodity, execution is an art, right? So most bringing up the social media thing, I think it's just about consistency. Be on every platform. Who cares? Like figure it out and then figure out what platform is rewarding you the most, right? And then focus your time on that platform. I think most people just aren't consistent, and I do see a thread where it's, hey, I need to raise capital to be consistent, which I don't understand that. Like, or I need to raise to do this. It's like, what can you do with what you have? Um, and in terms of raising capital, it's more about milestones to accomplish. So I think it's better to kind of figure out that idea, and start generating some customers and some revenue, right? Because you never know, you might not want to do it when you get a customer. It could be like, hey, this is just a hobby, that you know. So I think it's just staying consistent is the main thing. And I would read 0 to 1. I think Peter Thiel put out a master class. And at the end of the day, just how that book came about, it was an accident. Peter Thiel did a talk at Stanford. A kid at Stanford took notes and reached out to Peter Thiel and said, I would like to turn this into a book. Um, and that's how 0 to 1 came about at the end of the day. So like Peter was living his life, being a billionaire, and this, student kind of chased him down. And in my opinion, it's one of the top business books of all time because he just simplifies, growing a business. And one of the things he says, in a talk is, competition is for losers, right? So it's just a different way to look about, growing a business and not competing, with another business, because it actually doesn't even make sense. In theory, that person you're looking at can end up buying you, um, so yeah, I would say that's a good book. Rework is a good book as well. But I think Traction, and 0 to 1, those are 3 books I think that are really helpful.
I like that. And then when it comes to setting up systems, are there any tools you use? You mentioned Zapier. Anything else you
Yep.
use to stay organized, to automate your business, and just to help you do what you do better?
Yeah, I think Zapier is really good. Trello is good for my team, and we're able to to figure out what we're working on and like where we're at in the process. And I'll say that's about it. A lot of people start using tools and they don't they don't use it. I mean, like they there's a bunch of like just software that they have for XXX and they don't use it. I think why me and the team works well together is because we actually use Trello. And obviously we use Google Suite of tools. You brought up Bard, you brought up Chat GPT, right? We're using all these different things. Um, but in terms of staying on task and delivering goals to the people that we told we will, I can simplify that to Trello, Airtable, which Airtable and Trello are kind of like the same thing. So you could pick. And then I would say consistency. Hey, we have a marketing plan where we're going to post regularly, right? And we do that, but I think, and that's the thing, the Trello will evolve as your business evolves. At the end of the day, your target, there's nothing wrong with a business making the same amount of money every year. But just so on the same, if you want to be a high growth tech company, there's something wrong with that, right? So your revenue needs to double, triple, and you need to implement different processes, and you need to add more value to your customers, right? So that a lot of that is implementing different tools, and you might have to build your own software. So it's a portal. So I think things evolve, based off of the business, but at the bare minimum, for us, we're a marketing company, so we try to use all the top marketing tools. You know, which a few of them I've named, and then other than that, it's just executing.
That's the name of the game, man. Execution. Ideas are infinite and abundant, but execution is rare, man. The ability to take something from 0 to 1 and actually
Listen,
put points on the board. you know,
listen, that's it. I'm not if I'm the ideas that I have really don't really matter at the end of the day. Like, everything that people see is execution at the end of the day. And it's a team. It could be someone that you work with on one event and you mutually get something out of it, and that creates that. A lot of people need to follow up on what they've done. Nothing irks me more than going to an event and but if it's like false advertised and there's no follow up and you're not connecting the people there together, it just again, back to that car accident and me going there, I'm very intentional about that at the end of the day. Like I don't even, I mean, I like, you know, yeah, I don't even want, like, I don't, like, I tell people if you're sick, stay home. I don't want you to come and get people sick. So I think it's, people go out of their way to show up, so if you're, and it's vice versa, right? Like, so it's you when you go to events, you already made there, and maybe go there with a goal in mind to meet one or two or four people, and get a number and set up a follow-up call to learn and share more. But simultaneously, if it when it for my events, and I do think anyone, it's like, again, it's a 2 hour thing. Obviously, it's a lot of things could go wrong, but the other side, it's hard to mess up 2 hours. Like, you can control 2 hours. So if you can control 2 hours and help people have a good time, um, that's kind of like the core thing that, I try to do with the events. And again, money makes the world go around. So nothing against conscious capitalism, but I try to stay away from certain groups that deter away from, you know, the reality. At the end of the day, you and I we got bills that we have to pay. I'm not a trust fund kid, so I have to work and show up for a living. And that's typically, the audience that I work with. So I just try to make sure that it's giving value out of people. I'm more likely to cancel an event if I don't think it's going to be valuable. Or same thing with a customer, and that's why we've got to where we got. I would say we always, um, probably undercharged and over delivered, to get to where we have to get. And then I think once you get to a certain point, it should be obvious, and you don't want to live outside your means. A lot of people do that. Um, then you could kind of scale, and that's where technology should help. At the end of the day, it should make your life easier, as you're scaling and working with more people, whether it's, and it could be as simple as scheduling emails. I don't want to act like I'm talking about custom code to everything, but even if you're like, think about it. Like, there are people that send emails on the weekends. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not throwing shade at you all. Good for you, right? But what if you scheduled a 5:30 a.m. Monday email, right? Or 6 a.m. Monday email, right? Just so because what happens on the weekends, my email will get buried, you know. But at 5:30 a.m., I think it's a different. It hits differently, in my opinion. A Tuesday 7:30 a.m. email hits different than a Saturday 3 p.m. It's like, go out there and enjoy life, like, you know.
Right, and you might have written the email at Saturday 3 a.m. or 3 whatever, but scheduling the send just takes it to a level where you're managing your perception, and you're going to be able to influence how that person sees you as a producer, as a worker. Oh, this person wakes up early. This person is responsible. They are on point, and they're up when I'm sleeping. Oh, let me get up a little earlier and be on my, just these subconscious, like, psychological things that happen when I'm reading an email from somebody that consistently sends things early in the morning. They may have been up binging Netflix when they wrote that email,
yeah.
but they really thought about the drip campaign or how it's going to come to me, and the follow-up email and the text message or whatever. So that's a good point. Any other tips? I know you got a lot going on, so we're going to get ready to wrap it up here soon. But any other tips for entrepreneurs, creators, anybody trying to do big things? Any other tips for success, in addition to what you've already mentioned?
Yeah, I think keep it simple. Keep it simple. There's probably someone that has already done what you have or wanting to do, right? So, like, you could try to compete with that individual, or you could, you know, um, just not be transactional and build a relationship and do life with them at the end of the day. And I think that's the most important thing. Um, I think that's it. Like, you could be transactional, or you could do life with people. Um, obviously, sometimes you have to be transactional. If you walk into a bank and you want a loan, that's a transactional. But think about that process though. What if you know the banker and what if you know what I mean? Like so and there are different situations. I think Drake had a bar. I did brunch with the judge I was appearing before. It was like, so I just think it's a small world. A lot of stuff is relationships. And in the beginning, especially when you're bootstrapping, when you're scrappy, what can you do to utilize the relationships? If you ask, you shall receive. I had to tell someone today, look, I don't know how to read minds because they're calling me and I have no idea what it's like. You have to tell me what you're thinking because I don't know what you're thinking. And I think that's like we have to, and there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day. I think like you look at someone like a Conor McGregor, right? Like that's someone that came from nothing and created everything at the end of the day. But what he had, he still had to fight for it. Floyd Mayweather, right? Those are interesting stories at the end of the day. I think like making it through fighting, you have to knock people out. You know what I mean? He had to knock people out in the fashion that he knocked people out to get to where he had. But the whole time he knew he was playing a game and he knew that, I got to do this MMA boxing fight to really set my family up and create wealth. And then after he did that, he was like, okay, I got to create a liquor company to keep the wealth. That's crazy at the end of the day. Like to go from hey, I want to make it to the USC to now I own a Lamborghini yacht and I'm the richest, MMA fighter in the history ever is insane, right? So it's like you have to have that confidence in yourself, period, and trust in whatever power you believe in. And just get better at the end of the day and get better and better and better. I think next week, I like MMA. So, even if you look at Israel Adesanya, like imagine if he lost that fight to Pereira, it would have been over at the end of the day. Like the confidence that he had to just go in there and just deliver it the way he delivered it, maybe the greatest post knockout reaction ever, that's the type of stuff that like gives me chills, man. Like MMA, John Jones coming out of nowhere, choking out Cyril Gane that quick, looking at Jimmy Butler, right? It's gonna be, I like sports for that reason. I think you could draw a lot out of sports. And and the competition for losers, in my opinion, dies when it comes to sports, because that is pure competition. Jimmy Butler is not gonna hang out with Giannis in the offseason and train with him, right? So they are competing in sports, that is right. So like I think but those guys off the field, like LeBron, right? Like he hangs out, trains with everybody, right? Kobe, his last years was all about paying it forward, So yeah, I think there's a lot of businesses of sports in itself, and yeah, it could be, finance is a whole other sport too. So you have to give yourself time to continuously learn, and we live in a world. Look, I've been in tech for 7 years. This thing changes every 3 years, in my opinion. Every 3 years. TikTok wasn't relevant 3 years ago, right? There's a company called Lemon 8. There's another company called Clapper. These might be bigger than TikTok in 3 years from now, right? All this stuff changes. LinkedIn, look at what LinkedIn is today compared to what it was 3 years ago. Discord was not around 3 years ago, or you know what I mean? So like, and let alone like, and now this is the year that we all got AI. So think about what we are going to be looking at in 3 years, right? Think about robotics and AI combined, right? Like that's where, things get interesting. So I think it's just, stay, keep learning and, you know, I don't want to sound corny, but like, look, stay. I grew up in a third world country. I've seen some scary things. But we live in America. It's a country that really, you could pull yourself up from your own bootstraps, no matter what you're going through. So just stay positive and make the most out of every day. I think just be better every day. Do one thing better every day. And even some days if it means you not doing anything, right? That's fine too, because I think it's better to show up with a cup full as opposed to and it's again, I'm not saying, or reach out to someone if you need to talk to somebody. I think it's more about community, you know. Um, not being the toughest person, I think is important.
100%. Man, this is really, really good stuff. I'm very, very inspired and uplifted. I'm charged up, juiced up, ready to go. Ready to go, man. Let's tell everybody listening where they can find you, where to follow up, and also how can our community support you and help you uplift and elevate what you got going on moving forward.
I appreciate you. Yeah, Manny Larcher, LinkedIn, Instagram, Manny Larcher. Um, yeah, we talk about community. Check out Collaborate and Elevate. It's really, I look at it as a media and a software company. But we put out a lot of free information on the website. And then if you want to join our community, there's a low cost membership. And yeah, I appreciate that. I think that helps, a lot. And again, just always happy to talk to any founder, especially, Black founders, and really kind of help them, in their fundraising process. And like I said, with investors as well. If you are investing in Black founders, I would love to introduce you to some that are building some great companies. And um, so I appreciate it. I appreciate the platform. It's been really a great conversation.
Absolutely, man. And I love that you're so up on just supporting people. We definitely need more investment in Black founders and female founders for sure. And we need everybody to be uplifted and inspired and know that you can do it. Believe in yourself, believe you can do it, and follow Manny, follow Collaborate and Elevate. Pay attention to what he's saying and really look at how you can implement these things into your business, because he's working with some of the top people, both on the investment side and on the startup side, and really just looking at all that information and extracting what he can to help other people become more successful, more abundant. And that's what we all about here at Abundance Universe. Really appreciate you speaking about the abundance mentality, about that positivity, that mindset, because that is huge. It's so important for us to keep the right mentality on our journey, because you're going to have to do some challenging things anyway. But your mindset while you're pursuing and persevering through those things is going to significantly affect your health, your success, and the way people perceive you, because energy is real. You can feel the energy when you meet people, and it goes through the camera and everything. And if your energy is not right or abundant, you're not living in your own abundance, that could show up in other ways and not take your business to where it really needs to go and help the people that you're really, really trying to help. So take care of yourself first. Make sure you're exercising, eating right, breathing clean air, get as much sun as you can. And as Manny mentioned, get around positive people. Get around people who are doing great things. Kick the losers out of your life and only be around winners, because the winners always win. And if you're listening to this right now, you are a winner. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tapping in, and thank you for being who you are and doing what you need to do to elevate your game, because that's what we all about here at Abundance Universe. Manny, I want to thank you again, man. Extreme gratitude. I know you're one of the busiest men on the planet. So for you to spend this much time with me, I'm very grateful. And I've been educated, edified, and uplifted abundantly. So thank you, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All
Look
right,
forward
man.
to. We'll do a round two in a year. We'll
we're gonna have a
see.
lot of these. I feel like we're gonna do some
Yeah,
IRL things as well. And we got to have a whole nother
definitely.
conversation about Web3 and blockchain. We didn't even get into that side of things. So yeah, more to come. And maybe we do some live events in Ohio, collaborate and elevate, and then we can
I think we I think we
bring it out
got
to
to do
LA as
that.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got to do that in Columbus.
We got to make that we
Yeah,
got to make that LA to Ohio bridge, like, because we out
I
here,
agree.
Ohio to LA. You took it to Miami. I think that was a great move. You moving to Miami, I think you created a bridge between Miami and Ohio, which is something I've always appreciated as well. And yeah, man, this is really exciting what you build and where we're going with this. Love to see you doing what you're doing in the space for the people you're doing it for. So a gratitude abundantly. And yeah,
Appreciate
man,
it.
let's stay
Appreciate it.
uplifted. Y'all tap in. We'll see you next time on Abundance Universe. Peace and blessings abundantly.
Blessings.